An ambitious 18-year-old was tragically murdered in March 2015 after a night out with her close friend. As the investigation progressed over several years, the truth gradually came to light, but the haunting question of why remained unanswered, leaving Brittney's family and friends grappling with the tragedy. But what exactly happened, you may ask? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome to our channel. This is Criminal Activities. Brittney Gargol, born on August 31, 1996, was 18 years old at the time. She was raised in Saskatoon, Canada by her parents, Suzanne Gargol and Everett Hilbaum. After her parents' separation during her childhood, they both quickly moved on to form new blended families. Brittney had several younger sisters who looked up to her. In addition to her home life, Brittney led a highly active and demanding schedule. She was managing 2 jobs to save money while attending Newtona Collegiate to complete her grade 12 diploma. Brittney was determined to further her education in business at the college level, with the goal of ultimately pursuing a career in the hospitality industry. Despite her busy commitments, she made time to enjoy socializing with her friends during her occasional time off. One of Brittney's closest friends, Cheyenne Rose Antoine, also 18 years old at the time, was someone she enjoyed hanging out with often. Cheyenne experienced a difficult and traumatic upbringing with little connection to her parents. She lost her mother at a young age, which contributed to her lengthy criminal record starting at the age of 12, accumulating 54 convictions by the time she was 19. What memories she had of her parents were marked by their struggles with addiction, and she was mainly raised in the foster care system and endured significant physical and sexual abuse during her childhood. Brittney was a constant source of support for Cheyenne, offering guidance through her difficult times. She helped Cheyenne manage her emotions, provided a safe space for her to express her feelings, and was always there to offer comfort. Brittney was the unwavering support system in Cheyenne's life, the one person she knew she could rely on. It was said that Cheyenne would have done anything for Brittney in return. They were inseparable, spending much of their time together and frequently going out for drinks as a shared activity. The evening of March 24th followed their usual routine. Just after midnight, the two posed for a selfie and posted it on Facebook before they headed out. They spent hours together until they eventually parted ways, with Cheyenne claiming to be dropped off at an assisted living facility where she visited her uncle. Several hours after losing contact with Brittney, though, an apparently very concerned Cheyenne posted on Facebook, "Where are you? Haven't heard from you. Hope you made it home safe. Love ya." For unknown reasons, Brittney had Cheyenne's phone. Cheyenne visited her uncle after separating from Brittney, who confirmed that she had come to see him alone. Sadly, only a few hours later, Brittney's body was discovered on the side of a road. The morning of March 25, 2015, at 6 a.m., a man walking near a landfill site on the southern outskirts of Saskatoon made an urgent 911 call after discovering a young woman lying on the ground. She was cold to the touch, with marks visible on her neck. Her black leather jacket was stained with blood, she was barefoot, and her watch was shattered. It was evident that she had been through a violent struggle. Police arrived promptly, but there were no signs of life, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. It was immediately clear that they were dealing with a homicide. Nearby, a dark blue belt with a large buckle was found, but there were no other identifying items. The authorities released images of her clothing and distinctive tattoos in hopes of identifying her. It wasn't long before a teenager named Cheyenne contacted the police, sobbing, and confirming that the tattoos matched those of her best friend. Cheyenne explained they had been out together the previous night, but had parted ways in the early hours of the morning, and she hadn't seen Brittney since. Cheyenne informed the police that she and Brittney had visited several locations together throughout the evening, starting with Manchester's Brew Pub. They later attended a house party before heading across town to the Colonial Pub and Grill. However, Cheyenne mentioned that the night became hazy after they left the house party. She vaguely recalled an incident at the Colonial Pub and Grill that she believed might be connected. According to Cheyenne, Brittney began conversing with an unfamiliar man at the bar, and they appeared to be getting along well. Brittney asked him for a lighter and invited him to join them for drinks. Before Cheyenne could learn more about him, Brittney and the man left together. Brittney did not disclose their destination, and Cheyenne was unable to recall the man's name, their direction of departure, or whether they were walking or driving in Brittney's car. The only details she claimed to remember were that the man was white, and it was around 4 a.m. at the time. This is when Cheyenne allegedly left to go see her uncle. Police immediately questioned the uncle, and he confirmed hearing a similar story. Authorities were now focused on locating the unidentified man, but had very little information to go on. Additional calls from others further confirmed the identity of the body, and it was soon verified that the victim was indeed Brittney. The police started to narrow down Brittney's time of death upon finding her body. Brittney's close friend, Natasha, was one of her other friends to come forward. The two had been friends for years, and Brittney often turned to Natasha for advice. When Natasha learned that Brittney had dropped out of school, she was the one who encouraged her to return and finish her studies. On March 24th, Natasha had lent Brittney money for gas and inquired about her plans for the day. Brittney shared that she was meeting up with some friends and might attend a party. Based on Cheyenne's account of the events that night, detectives reviewed the footage from the Colonial Pub and Grill to see who this mysterious man was, but neither Cheyenne nor Brittney appeared on the video, and the bar staff had no recollection of them being present. Given the busy nature of the night, it was possible that Cheyenne's timing was inaccurate, and the police were working to reconcile Cheyenne's account, but they harbored growing doubts. While it was entirely possible that her intoxication had caused confusion and inaccuracies in her timeline, there was no evidence to support that she and Brittney had ever been at the Colonial Pub and Grill, a location Cheyenne was adamant they had visited, and where Brittney had reportedly met the unidentified man. Brittney's vehicle was soon located. The exact location of where Brittney's car was found remains unconfirmed, but when discovered, it was covered in dust and dirt, with dark marks on the side and long grass caught in the tires. Cheyenne's phone was inside the car, suggesting that Brittney had taken it when she left, and indicating that she and the mystery man might have driven somewhere rather than walking. Cheyenne's phone led investigators to hope that the phone data could be analyzed to reveal additional locations Brittney may have visited that night, helping to fill in the gaps in Cheyenne's account. The phone had pinged at a McDonald's at 4:30 a.m., a detail Cheyenne had not mentioned. Brittney's autopsy results eventually came back and confirmed the investigators' suspicions. She had been strangled to death. The authorities were confident that the belt found near her body was the weapon used in the murder. They were still unsure as to who committed the crime. As the months passed, it was now September 2015, and investigators found themselves no closer to solving the case than they had been in March. The community remained in shock, struggling to comprehend the tragedy. Numerous tributes continued to pour in, including a significant one from Cheyenne posted on Facebook. It reads, "I miss you so much, Bert. Wish heaven had visiting hours so I could come see you, but I'm so glad you came and visited me in my dream last night. Woke up with tears in my eyes. I'm blessed to have met you and have you be a part of my life. Still can't believe those last 2 days were going to be the last 2 days I got to be able to hug you, talk to you, and laugh with you. I will cherish and hold all our good memories we've had over the years since grade 9 until we meet again. Looking forward to that day I see you again. Say hello to my mommy up there for me." Given that Cheyenne was the last known person to see Brittney and her uncle was one of the individuals who had interacted with her that night, the police decided to revisit Cheyenne's uncle. During this second conversation, he became noticeably more evasive than before. However, after further questioning, he eventually provided more information. He revealed that Cheyenne had told him they had met 2 individuals at the bar that morning and gone back to a motel with them. Initially, Cheyenne had claimed that Brittney was speaking to a white male, but now he said she described the men as black, though she couldn't recall their names, what they were wearing, or the location of the motel. According to Cheyenne, the group had smoked marijuana at the motel, and an argument broke out over some cocaine. Cheyenne said she went to the bathroom, and when she returned, she found Brittney dead on the bed with marks on her neck. She also had told her uncle that the two men had threatened her with a gun and forced her to cover up the crime. There was no evidence of a white male, and Cheyenne's uncle eventually confessed to the police that she had asked him to lie. While the police were skeptical of this account, even if it were true, Cheyenne's admission of knowing that Brittney had been killed on that night prior to the police identifying her was significant. She had placed herself at the scene and described the marks on Brittney's neck, details that only someone with knowledge of the situation could provide. Cheyenne had accumulated a lengthy criminal record, and at this time, she was already in custody for another offense, making it easier for authorities to question her. However, the once helpful and concerned friend who had eagerly provided information was now quiet, uncooperative, and evasive during questioning. Over a year had passed, and the police were hitting a dead end. They believed they had interviewed every potential witness and pursued every lead. Most of the CCTV footage had already expired, and what remained offered little useful information. Cheyenne remained the only person of interest in the case. Investigators continued reviewing the social media accounts of both Brittney and Cheyenne, hoping to uncover any missed clues. They eventually discovered a significant lead. In a tribute post Cheyenne had shared, the upper part of her outfit was visible, and they noticed she was wearing a belt they recognized from the crime scene. It was the same belt found near Brittney's body. The marks around Brittney's neck matched the weave of the belt precisely, and the marks on the car also seemed consistent with the belt. With this new evidence, the belt was sent for comprehensive DNA testing. Experts confirmed the presence of both Brittney's and Cheyenne's DNA on the belt. Investigators acknowledged that if the photo had been taken from a slightly different angle, the connection between Cheyenne and the belt might have gone unnoticed. The case remained complex, with little progress. The killer's motive was unclear, and Cheyenne continued to withhold critical information. Months turned into years, and eventually it had been 2 years since Brittney's murder. Then one fateful day, a breakthrough flipped the case upside down. A friend of Cheyenne's, who had not yet come forward, arrived at Brittney's parents' home with a startling revelation. She described how Cheyenne had come to her house in the early morning hours, after 5 a.m. Cheyenne was extremely intoxicated, sobbing uncontrollably. The friend described her as being in the midst of an alcohol-fueled rant. According to the friend, Cheyenne told her that she and Brittney had gotten into a heated argument, something involving a cell phone, though the details were unclear. Crying and shaking, Cheyenne confided that she had struck and strangled Brittney with her belt. She then pointed outside, where the friend claimed she saw Brittney's car parked, with Brittney slumped over in the passenger seat, and it looked like she was bleeding. Cheyenne did not offer the friend any further details about the argument, how it escalated, or what exactly happened in the moments leading up to the murder. She made no mention of anyone else being present or a motel, which she had previously described to her uncle. Overcome with shock, the friend allegedly urged Cheyenne to leave, which she did, driving off erratically. However, the following morning, when Cheyenne sobered up, she claimed to have no memory of the events from the night before and seemed to have forgotten everything entirely. Due to the evidence against her, Cheyenne recounted a similar story to the police that she had shared with her friend that night. She claimed that after a night of heavy drinking and smoking, her memory became unclear following the house party. Cheyenne vaguely recalled going to a McDonald's, where she and Brittney had an argument. She stated that after leaving the McDonald's, they began walking to the car when Brittney grabbed Cheyenne's phone. While she could not recall the exact events that transpired, Cheyenne admitted to becoming enraged and losing control. She remembered the moment everything became hazy, and the next thing she could recall was Brittney being unconscious on the ground. In March 2017, Cheyenne was formally charged with second-degree murder and causing indignity to a human body. Under Canadian law, second-degree murder is typically defined as a deliberate killing that occurs without premeditation, falling outside the categories of first-degree murder. While it carries a significant sentence, the minimum term is life in prison with a parole eligibility period of 10 years. In contrast, manslaughter involves a homicide committed without the intent to kill, though there may have been an intention to cause harm. It carries no mandatory minimum sentence. Considering this, Cheyenne's legal team announced that she had reached a plea agreement. She pled guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter, opting to avoid a trial for second-degree murder. In her statement, Cheyenne took responsibility for Brittney's death, although she claimed to have no recollection of the events leading up to it, deeming manslaughter the most appropriate charge.
I'm just outside Saskatoon Provincial Court here. We have just learned the sentence of a woman who pleaded guilty to causing the death of what court heard was one of her best friends. Brittney Gargol was 18 years old when her body was found just south of Saskatoon near Cedar Villa Estates back in March of 2015. And today, Cheyenne Rose Antoine pleaded guilty to manslaughter in connection to Gargol's death. And the sentence that she received was a joint submission sentence agreed upon by the Crown and Defense. The judge accepting it, meaning that Antoine will serve a 7-year sentence for manslaughter. Now, she was originally charged with second-degree murder, but pleaded guilty to the lesser included offense of manslaughter. And today we learned the facts surrounding this case that was quite mysterious for about 2 years before Antoine was charged in March of 2017. What we heard was that this was a night of drinking and drugs with two friends, and something happened to make CheyenneAntoine snap. What she remembers is that they left a house party that night. They were heavily intoxicated, and Antoine says her last memory is of Gargol taking her phone. Later that night, there were witnesses who said that they heard from the woman herself say that she had gotten into an argument with her friend and strangled her. Now, the cause of death was strangulation, and Gargol's body was found in the middle of the road early on a morning after this had happened. Afterwards, the police investigation required a lot of work, and we heard about that from the Crown, about how many pieces were needed to be put together to make an arrest in this case, because CheyenneAntoine actually tried to mislead police in their investigation by saying that she was there that night, but that she had nothing to do with it, that she had left before anything had happened, and kind of tried to almost make it seem like she was looking for her friend as well through Facebook postings. A belt was located beside Brittney Gargol's body, and police were able to determine that the belt belonged to Ms. Antoine because they saw it in a Facebook photo that had been posted just hours before Gargol's body was found. So quite a complicated investigation, we learned. But as far as a motive, we just spoke to the defense lawyer who said that this is a case where we will never truly know what caused this woman to kill one of her closest friends, as she just does not remember it happening. However, she does take responsibility for her being the one responsible for this woman's death. At Saskatoon Provincial Court, I'm Bree McAdam with the Saskatoon Star-Phoenix.
At the age of 21, Cheyenne appeared in court to face Brittney's family for the first time. Overcome with emotion, she buried her head in her hands, crying and avoiding eye contact with those present. Cheyenne's attorney acknowledged that the family sought an explanation for the tragic events, but stated that Cheyenne could not provide one. The attorney noted that while Cheyenne had mentioned a potential argument over a cell phone as a possible trigger for the altercation, little else had been disclosed. Cheyenne has never offered any further details regarding the incident. Through her lawyer, she said, "I will never forgive myself. Nothing I say or do will ever bring her back. I am very, very sorry. It shouldn't have ever happened." During her sentencing hearing, the court was informed that Cheyenne had been on a methamphetamine binge a month prior to Brittney's death. Her lawyer explained that she had used drugs and alcohol as a means of coping with the trauma of sexual abuse in the foster care system and the loss of her mother. Ultimately, Cheyenne was sentenced to 7 years in prison, with her release scheduled for 2025. The Correctional Service of Canada, CSC, confirmed her sentence concludes on April 18, 2025. The judge emphasized the need for Cheyenne to participate in rehabilitation programs aimed at addressing her addiction and anger issues during her incarceration. In accordance with the CSC, the board determined that Cheyenne could remain on statutory release after being accepted into a residential treatment facility. Details regarding the duration and start date of the program were redacted from the decision. Upon completion of the program, she will continue serving her sentence in a halfway house, under conditions that prohibit the consumption of alcohol and drugs. She is also restricted from contacting Brittney's family or associating with individuals involved in gangs, criminal activity, or substance abuse. Additionally, she is required to adhere to a community treatment plan addressing substance use, trauma, and violence.
We learned some details that will help with closure regarding this incident. Brittney was a wonderful young person that didn't deserve this, and we truly, deeply miss her every day. Thanks.
I think that the word motive doesn't have much relevance in this particular case. This is just a tragic situation where drug and alcohol use exploded. My client had some very deep-seated personal issues that she was not dealing with, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, we'll never know, they turned into a very tragic situation for all involved. There's a significant memory loss. There's memory up to a certain point of the evening between my client and her friend, and unfortunately, the pertinent time when the offense actually occurred, there is no memory. Yes, I think that speaks to the intensive investigation that the police underwent. My client had an opportunity to review all of the disclosure and evidence in the case, and upon reviewing all of that, she was prepared to accept responsibility and acknowledge her role. I think it was evident for anyone who was in that courtroom. She feels immense regret and remorse for what has happened. This was her best friend, and the fact that she is no longer here as a result of her own actions weighs incredibly heavily on her, and she's going to have to live with that and deal with those issues as she moves forward.
Now, with all that said, let's not have Brittney's death be how we remember her. Brittney was a determined and diligent young woman, demonstrating both intelligence and ambition as she balanced her academic pursuits and work commitments from the age of 16. She was passionate about her role at the German Cultural Center and aspired to further her career by pursuing a degree in business management. Outside of her professional and academic endeavors, Brittney enjoyed spending time outdoors with her family, engaging in activities such as snowboarding, camping, and boating. She also had a keen sense of style, often shopping for fashionable attire and proudly sharing her outfits with her extensive network of friends. Brittney was known for her adventurous spirit, independence, and strong will. She was outspoken, beautiful, vibrant, and compassionate, leaving a lasting impact on those who knew her. Her family and friends will always remember her warmth and the joy she brought into their lives. She will be deeply missed. Brittney's aunt describes the pain of losing her niece as deeply overwhelming, a grief that is both profound and intense. Christy, Brittney's stepmother, shared that Brittney's younger sister, who was just 5 years old at the time of Brittney's death, often feels troubled by the thought that if a day passes without thinking about her, it may mean she is beginning to forget her.
We're so grateful, and so thankful that the investigators that have been working on this for almost 2 years never gave up hope, because it was very hard for us at times to keep that hope up. Yeah, the details are not going to be pretty. I'm raising her 7-year-old sister who has a lot of questions and doesn't understand, so that's difficult. Brittney was very happy, joyful. She loved her family. She has 4 younger sisters. She loved her friends. She spent as much time with them as she could. She was a wonderful person whose life was cut short, and it's not fair. It's just not fair.
Brittney's father, Everett, expressed his overwhelming sense of anger and sadness over the tragic brevity of his daughter's life. He shared that his world was irrevocably altered by her loss and that he misses her deeply. The day before Brittney was killed, he was supposed to help her with her car, but was unable to make it in time. Everett reflected on this missed opportunity, feeling that it could have been his one last chance to embrace his daughter. He thinks of this regret every day, knowing that it was a moment he will never have again.
Brittney was a very great person. She loved life. She loved living it. She had such a kind heart. She gave everything she could to make other people happy. She did what she could do to make me happy. She wanted to finish school and open her own business and do everything she could to be successful. And then life was taken from her and she's no longer with us. But when I'm here, I can still feel her presence. And it's almost like she's telling me, Nikki, it's okay. I'll meet you again. We'll be together again. I'm in God's hands. I'm safe. And I just got to remember her for the person she was.
But I want to know your opinion on this case. What do you think was the motive? We'd love to hear from you in the comments section. This is Criminal Activities signing off. Stay safe out there.